Morning, everyone. Let's stand up. Sorry if that was dramatic news. What I call Kayotsaga, feet apart, arms by the sides, shoulders down. I'm just going to double check the screen, sorry. Should be okay, yeah. Okay. Make sure your feet are parallel to each other using a midline that runs along the middle of each foot. So you're like standing on parallel lines. Breathe if you can easily through the nose. Let the posture move, so you can do things like moving your toes. You can notice, without trying to change it, whether your body has a predilection to move to the left or move to the right. Just let it drift in any direction it wants to. And then it becomes, as it were, self-aware. So if it wants to drift right, let it drift right. Just let it be. And then gradually over a few breaths, it will correct itself holistically, rather than that being superimposed on the body. So really let any movements, to drop one shoulder, to drift, and there may not be any, but just let the body orientate itself freely like a compass needle, and then let it correct itself. So this takes, of course, patience, which is an art. During this process, things might happen like the feet might move. You might find the pelvic floor, right, which is, yogas are all about the subtle. You might find and in a way, and it's selfless as well. So, wisdom about everything is in everything. Now we're going to imagine that underneath our arms there are large balloons inflating. And where breathing is natural. So again, we're trying to evoke a sense of selflessness. And as those large balloons inflate, obviously their arms will drift. Keep aware of the breath. If your breath goes shallow, the self has crept in, as it were. Of course, we should define our terms, but, we won't yet. So the arms keep raising up and then gradually let them turn. And as they turn, they raise further. And eventually you suck in the tongue as much as you can and lift up and stretch the waist. So you might do that by moving, sucking in the tummy, moving left, moving right, lengthening the lower back muscles, releasing the roots of the neck. Really just getting agreement into the stretch, agreement. Agreement, we can say, is the agreement of the body, brain, breath, and universe, which are already in agreement. But, if we want to stretch the lower back or to lengthen the lower back, necessarily for that to happen to the back, there has to be the necessary releases everywhere, and that's a lovely process. Big circle when you're ready with your arms, hands to the hips. Step your feet apart to a generous stride. And just check your toes equidistant from the front of the mat. Left toes in, right foot and leg out, turning on the ball of the right foot, finishing off the turn on the heel. Just check the alignment. And when you're ready, raise the arms up and feel the ribs raise up. Breathe through your nose. So go a little bit higher than the top of the chest. The wrists a little bit higher than the shoulders. And really feel the elevation of the ribs. Then continue up with the front arm. Inhale, exhale. Don't hold your breath. Soften your eyes. Enjoy this super sensuality through the breath, with soft eyes, with a soft brain. The super sensuality. It can be delightful to feel into the little toe on the back foot. I can vouch for that because I am currently delighting in that very sensation myself. So, that means, never give up on the little toes. because they represent a general shift of perception, which is the realization of the interdependence of body, brain, breath. Inhale, come on up. Well done. Hands on the hips, feet face forwards, deep breaths, plural. Tune in on the pelvic floor. And stay tuned into the pelvic floor as you turn the back toes in, front foot and leg out, turn on the ball of the foot, finish off the turn on the heel. Raise the arms up. Good job. And feel how that raises the ribs. So there is a little drawing in of the tummy, because the raising of the ribs then helps to bring the pelvic floor into alignment because of the way it pulls on the front pelvis. Inhale, exhale. Jaw soft, eyes soft, brain soft. Meditative means love. Meditative means love. And love means allowing or accepting whatever is there to arise in consciousness as it is. The people get confused on this on a sort of moral point, because they think allowing anything to arise just as it is. What about, terrible world leaders, and what about climate change, and on and on. And that's not what's meant here. Allow it to arise in consciousness, because there's an understanding that consciousness responds spontaneously and appropriately. Consciousness has powers within it. Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti. These powers, the power to know, the power to act. Inhale. Super duper. Feet forwards, hands on the hips. Let's go diagonal. That is to say, we're going to take the front foot this time towards the front of the mat, towards the shrine side of the room, and then the back foot away. So I'm taking mine away from the shrine because the shrine's behind me, but yours is coming towards the shrine. The other way around, Chris. Yeah, you got it. And then the back toes don't turn out, but they don't have to turn in. And we've already got this sort of interesting balance going on that we can play with in terms of the alignment of the feet, feeling the alignment of the heel bones. Stretch the arms, breathe into it, tune into it. It's the only way to know reality is to open to reality. Inhale, exhale. Coming down. So it might sound like, is this a yoga class or philosophy class? Well, the same thing. But the body, if you want to know the body, that's part of reality, isn't it? The reality of the body is that it isn't just a body. It's affected by our attitude in this very moment that I'm talking. It's affected by our breath in this very moment. And of course, our attitude and our breath are affected by the world we live in and the things we hear and so on and so on. So to know the body, you have to know the field, which is its true identity. And the only way to know the field is to surrender it right now into the way things are. So it's like a giving, like you might give to a hug, or you might give to a kiss, or you might give to a delicious flavor, or you might give to, a sound you might hear or a feeling you might have. Okay, inhale, come on up. So when you give to any experience, that takes you back to the field. Let's swap one forwards, one back. So this is Trikonasana on the diagonal. Tri plus Kona plus Asana. Raising the arms back on the diagonal. 1 foot forwards, 1 foot back. Inhale, exhale. Don't hold your breath. That's we have this little trilogy of Lila Arta Lakshana in Vajrasati Yoga, play. So it means allow investigative movement, play. That's Lila. Why do we play? Well, that's the Artha, the purpose. We play so there's absorption in the interdependent experience here and now. And people get this absorption in the interdependent experience here and now when they sip coffee, the first sip of coffee, and close their eyes and boom. It only lasts a second, so we don't make a big deal of it, but it is there. And then the Lakshana, the signs, like when you know what you need to know, you feel relieved. And so your breath expresses that. Your breath becomes expressive. You feel more spontaneous, intuition arises and takes the place of doubt, which disappears. Okay, inhale. Good job. Walking the feet towards each other at a pace that suits you. Maybe you want to shake out or kick out in some way. Feet then come together. Tadasana. Spread out the toes. Spread out the toes. Multiple times. Spread out the long bones in the feet. The metatarsals. Raise the arms when you're ready. Find the pelvic floor. So sometimes, we're trying too hard and we have to loosen off to be able to honestly find the pelvic floor. So we have words like sati, as in Vajrasati. We have words like satya, as in truth. From this root sat, which implies honesty, truthfulness. Or even, the fundamental way things are, fundamental being. So when we're looking to find the pelvic floor, we need to bring in this satya. And it's like sometimes we can't feel it, so we do whatever is necessary to feel the reality, not the concept, but the reality of the pelvic floor. Press the feet, raise the fingers on the inhale. Inhale. Press the feet, raise the fingers. Exhale, bend ankles, knees, hips, lean forwards. The mistake sometimes people make is just think that the body should be perpendicular to the floor, when it actually should be perpendicular to the thighs. So lean forward, and you can pulse if you want. Up and down. Some people like me, like sometimes to turn the hands the other way around and bend and extend them, or even bring them to prayer. Anything goes, as long as it brings about absorption. So it's Utkatasana. Stand up if you're ready. Big circle, hands to heart, either step or jump, up to you. To a star, Tara, Sanskrit word for star. And we know the beautiful Bodhisattva, Tara, who, are you there, Tara? Yeah, who's on the shrine behind me. Left toes in, right foot and leg out on the ball of the foot, finish off the turn on the heel. A meditative awareness between the anterior superior iliac spine, the front hip points. Inhale. Exhale. Meditative awareness between the front hip points, and then play your way into it. So you might do things like lifting the heel of the front foot, for example. They might not, but that might be something you do. Or lifting the toes of the front foot. Or moving the back foot. Just kind of tuning in. You can turn your head if you want. And this, of course, is fairly well known in modern postural yoga as Virabhadrasana. Virabhadrasana number 2. Or Dvi. So playing is a way of tuning in, tuning out. So this is the lila, the play. Inhale if you're ready. Come on up. Feet forwards, hands on the hips. 3 or more deep breaths. Those poses usually start to stir the pot of prana. This energy. Back toes in, front foot and leg out, turn on the ball of the foot, finish off the turn on the heel. Double check, however, that the heel does line up with the arch and that the back toes definitely turn in. Again, meditatively feel between the front hip points a sort of softening. There's a ligament here called the inguinal ligament, which is a thickening of the abdominal tissues. So feel that ligament as a psychophysical respiratory experience as you raise the arms and relax and enjoy. Inhale. Exhale. And again, any amount, or you don't have to play. It might feel, immediately integrative. But for me, anyway, I find it useful to kind of adjust and readjust. The late, great Balur Krishnamacharya Sundarika Iyengar, B.K.S. Iyengar, used to say posing and reposing. Again, there's the option to look along the arm if you want. But we want to tune, we don't want anything left preoccupied in the body / mind. So there are little parts of the body that might not be fully in the pose yet, so we bring those into the pose. That avoids them being preoccupied, and that purifies the nerves. We call it nadi shodhana, nerve purification. Inhale. Come on up if you're ready. Arms down, hands to hips, feet face forwards. Deep breaths, plural. Again, tune in on the pelvic floor. So the pelvic floor, like every part of the body, is sensitive, of course. Essentially, it's muscles strung between the pubic bone and the tailbone, and some of them go around the tailbone too. Iliococcygeus, pubococcygeus, puborectalis, and coccygeus. And because we know for sure that everyone who's standing up practicing now has those muscles, we know for sure that you can tune in on them. But because they are part of an interdependent field, when you're tuning in on the pelvic floor, you're tuning in on the way you're breathing too. You're tuning in on the mind. And to be able to do one, it has to happen on all. So to find the pelvic floor, you need sufficient looseness. You can't grasp because what you're trying to tune into is ungraspable because of its ultimate vastness. Raise the arms, stay in touch with the pelvic floor, raise the arms, but don't impinge on the descending fibers of the trapezius, the neck, you could just say that. Turn the back toes in, front foot and leg out, whole body's turning round. You got it. Lift the back heel externally, rotate it, and then bring it down again. So in other words, internally rotate the thigh. If you don't feel squared up, go wider across the width of your mat. And obviously the mat has a length and a width, so across the width. Focus on the inner groin of the back leg. Inhale. Exhale, bend your front knee. So the inner groin of the back leg is an area you can really play into the stretch that you can feel from the inner groin of the back leg across the pubis. Breath comes and goes naturally. Eyes are soft, brain is soft. So some people find lots of adjustments on the back foot, for example, even going light on the heel. Sometimes I go light on every part of the back foot except the ball of the foot on the big toe side. So for moments at a time, you could be just on one small part of the back foot like that, and then really use that extra space to bring the groin around before bringing the foot down. And that can be done multiple times. Okay, inhaling to come up, turning back, big circle, hands to hips, deep breaths. Really let them happen. Finding the pelvic floor, keeping the eyes soft, keeping the brain soft. So that finding the pelvic floor is like a sort of riddle, and the answer is absorption. But absorption is absorption of the particle into the whole. So you can't be absorbed because you are that particle. It is you that is absorbed into the whole. Raise your arms when you're ready. Lightly tone the tummy. Find the pelvic floor. Again, look for flow. Back toes in, front foot and leg out. Whole body turns. And then the back heel can lift, turn out, and then come back down again. So again, we're internally rotating the thigh of the back leg. And breathing easy. Light tone in the tummy, finding the pelvic floor. Raising up from the hip joints, inhale. Exhale, bend your front knee. Again, I think it's useful to focus on the groin of the back leg and play in whatever way works. I've suggested that some of us might at some times find lifting parts of the back foot even off the floor can be helpful. I find it very helpful because we're teasing tissues around one way or the other, teasing tissues around. So we square up more. The SI joint becomes increasingly peaceful, and with it the mind. The SI joint is the sacroiliac joint where the pelvis and the widened part of the spine just above the tail meet. Keep the tummy toned, breathe through your nose, keep your eyes soft if you want. And if you find many micro adjustments useful, go ahead. It's up to you what works. Inhale, pelvic floor in your awareness, turning back to the front big circle. Hands on the hips. Deep breaths. We are going to forward fold. And if you know, or if you're not sure whether or not bricks ahead of you are useful, then put them there now. So if you know they're useful, obviously put them there. If you're not sure, put them there. If you're at home and you haven't got bricks, you can use blocks or books or whatever you've got. Toes should turn in and not turn out. Little toe side of the foot should spread out repeatedly. Lift up from the inner groins on an inhalation. Exhaling, fold over the top of the front thighs, hinge from the hip joints. Good job. Fingertips to the floor. For some people, the hamstrings, even this godforsaken time in the morning, for some people, the hamstrings have a lot of mobility, a lot of length, and the pelvis keeps moving. You can move your spine, as long as the pelvis is moving. But when the pelvis stops moving, then we should stop moving the spine. So for most of us, the right place to be is what's called Prasarita Padottanasana Ekam. And that can even include people whose hamstrings are long, because a Prasarita Padottanasana Ekam can be a great opportunity for balancing and rebalancing the feet. So remember, to get into the body is to get into the goddess, is one way of putting it that I find quite resonates well with me. And the goddess, of course, is the field, the interdependent, the manifest. And to call the interdependent, the field, the manifest, the goddess, can point to our deep levels of trust in her power, as it were. Her power to liberate, because how can I liberate I? Because if I liberate myself, I'm still there, So liberation comes from the particle returning to the source, as it were. And that means every sensation you're feeling is a particle or particles, particulars, you could say. And those sensations are already part of the field. They're already part of the goddess. So you just got to open up to them. And then you'll feel their deeper truth, which is this interdependent, direct experience. It's not an idea. It's a direct experience of, and what we experience subjectively is deeper breath, intuitive action, spontaneity. We want every part of the body to be involved, but we're not using a dictator approach. We're asking parts of the body that aren't involved for whatever reason what they need to become involved. What do you need? And the body will say things like time, or space. Or recognition. Okay. So keep the goddess channel open. That's another way of saying it. Don't close the anterior spine. Don't close the anterior spine. And then the goddess can flow. The goddess is our sense of non-particularization, which we can also call being in the center, because the center is between the polarities. Okay. Coming back to fingertips, if you're using blocks, come to the highest point you can on your blocks. And then feeling a pull down from sitting bones to heels, come up, that pull down, energetic pull down from sitting bones to heels. Feel your energy go straight down to your feet, so you don't feel dizzy, straight down to your feet. Walk your feet towards each other. You might want a little shake out or a little kick out of one kind or another. Then we're back to feet together. Arms by our sides, breathing through the nose. Jaw soft. Allow the pelvis to move as if it were bouncing off the edges of a ring, like a small ring. but not necessarily like circular, just kind of arbitrary, bumps off this edge, bumps off that edge. Right? And your breath flows. That's the other part that's going to make this recipe work. So the pelvis is bouncing off the edges of a small ring, and the breath is flowing. And you can feel as the pelvis bounces off the edges of this small ring, you can feel your feet more. Feel free to move them, if that helps. And gradually, we can feel the weight on the feet moving between front foot, back foot, inner foot, outer foot, left foot, right foot. And the movements can get increasingly small as we feel increasing balance at the feet. Raise up your right heel and still feel that kind of sensitivity to the left foot. And when ready, you can either put the heel on the inner ankle, it can cup the knee, or it can come to the top of the thigh. The thing we want to avoid regarding the foot and the knee is the heel into the knee. We could, if it is contact, it's cupping. So that is to say that the knee sits in the arches, medial and lateral arches of the foot. Breathing is natural and honest. Release your hands, place your foot, take a deep breath. So, and loosen up, any way that kind of, it could be a slow, sassy loosening, or it could be something more dynamic. As long as it feels loose, it doesn't matter what it looks like, it's what it feels like. And then we're going to tune in on what will be the other standing leg, foot, similar sort of awareness that we had when we were letting the pelvis move around a ring, as it were. Similarly, the heel can go on the inner ankle, it can cup the knee, or it can come into the inner thigh. And the hands to prayer. And so we know from historical sources that, not least Strabo's Geographica, that people would practice this for extensive periods of time. Okay. And that was part of the practice. We understand why they did that too, the negation of karma through inaction and through tapas, through burning up karma. So that's essentially why they did it. And it has a similar effect on us. While we're doing this, we're not doing that, habituation. Great. Great job. Okay, release. Place. Breathe. Shake out if you want, anything you want. Now, what we're going to do next, you might need a belt or a strap. Depends on the length of your arms and the mobility of the trapezius and so on. So we're going to bring one arm up the back and the other one will come to meet it. So that can be done directly, one hand touching the other, or indirectly using a belt, a sock, a strap, whatever. And this is very, very beneficial indeed for the descending fibers of the trapezius and some of the other neck muscles as well. And so we'll spend a bit of time just breathing into it. The tendency for the shoulders to rise up is a mirror of the tendency we have to shoulder the weight of the world, to burden our responsibilities, to carry. Like bharami, I carry, it's like many people, as years go by, we get more and more responsibilities. And that can make us, the shoulders rise up. But here, the shoulders kept down. And even if the tendency is there, it can't go with it. And so eventually the driving force behind the tendency also is not strengthened anymore. So it begins to weaken. It's attenuated, as Patanjali says. Keep awareness of your feet. So sometimes it's useful to move, especially if you're doing this practice, morning practices. Okay, slow and easy release. And whatever you need, just keep vital. And when you feel ready, we'll obviously do the same on the other side. So similarly, we're going to raise up the other arm and do exactly the same thing. Sorry about the microphone adjustment. And again, we get this depression in a good way, of the shoulder, which we want to agree with, which we do. It's worth observing this, I think, in our lives, that we are always agreeing or disagreeing with every moment, every situation, every thought, every person, everything. And we always disagree or agree with our breath. And there's nothing that we're sort of neutral about, apart from things we're not aware of. Anything we're aware of that comes into consciousness, we're agreeing or disagreeing. So you don't, you can notice that, and it's happening every moment. And because everything ultimately is the goddess, it's useful in some situations, safe situations, like practicing yoga, or practicing meditation, or speaking with a friend, or even speaking with someone you find challenging, as long as it's sort of safe, to breathe into that. Sometimes people just, nothing really wrong with them, but you don't know why, you just find them, difficult. Actually, if you breathe into that, the situation will change. As long as it's just someone who's just sort of ordinarily annoying. So breathe, eyes soft. Brain soft. Okay, it's great. Such a useful thing to do. We're going to release the arms if we're ready, when we're ready. Any movement you need to take or want to take, go ahead. Before we bring our hands behind our back, either holding the elbows or into Paschima Namaskara, which I'll do with some. Oh, it's okay. I'm worried about my finger, but it's fine. And bring the hands towards each other, repeatedly using your hands against your back. If you're doing the Paschima Namaskara, a variation that is, using your hands against the spinous processes to widen the outer margins of the pectoralis, to the chest. Spinous processes are sticky, outy, bony bits of the back. Step your feet apart if you're ready. You might still be wanting to adjust the hands, which is fine. Breathe through the nose. Find the pelvic floor. Breathe between the shoulders, so soften, psychophysical softening. And then we're going to turn the back toes in, front foot and leg out, whole body's turning around. So really turn the whole body, you got it. That's it, turn the whole body around. And walk the front foot further across the width of the mat, as well as lifting the back heel, turning it out before bringing it down again. It's got to turn out before it comes down again. Occasionally I've noticed some people lifting the heel and bringing it down exactly where it was originally, which is, I won't say pointless, but not as good as it could be. Okay, extending the inner groin of the back leg with an inhalation as we lift our chest. So inhale, lift the chest. Inner groin stretching. Exhale, stretch that inner groin from the inner groin forwards. So there's a hinging. How low down you go, it doesn't matter. It's not important. What's important is that we're hinging from the hip joints, we're breathing through the nose. Jaw is soft, toes aren't gripping. They should relax any gripping. This is Parsvottanasana. Leading with the bottom of the breastbone, pressing into both feet, coming up. Turning back to the front, keeping your hands in situ. Breathe through your nose. Visualize and feel a melting of the pectoralis. Back toes in, front foot and leg out. We're obviously going the other way. So whole body turns, you got it. Whole body turns. Walk the front foot further across the width of the mat. Lift the back heel, turn it out. And that turns the thigh in. And we can go, and in many cases should go as wide as hip width. Inhale, stretch the inner groin of the back leg as you lift up the chest. Exhale, keep the inner groin of the back leg long as you extend the side ribs. Feel the back leg falling away, as it were. And take as long as, or just take time, just breathe into it. Can be useful to release the gluteus maximus in the back leg. Leading with the bottom of the breastbone, coming up, calmly, turning back to the front when you're ready. Walking the feet slowly towards each other and slowly releasing the arms. And just let them hang by your sides and let the pelvis move this way and that, whatever you need, just to keep things limber. Good, so once you're feeling sufficiently loose, sufficiently limber, we're going to come into Adho Mukha Svanasana. So in the room, if you turn to face the midline of the room, and at home, as you like, and pressing the palms into a deep weave with the mat, breathing through the nose, extending up through the back. Of course, bending, extending the knees suits many people. Opening the armpits is a wonderful idea. Really good idea to open the armpits. And my suggestion regarding the armpits is to open the inner armpit first. So that sort of leads. And then the outer armpit follows. And then the under armpit joins in. So those of you who have learned armpit geography, you'll know how to orientate yourself around the armpit. But if you haven't learned armpit geography, inner is where the armpit and chest meet, outer is the other side to that, opposite to that. Under and upper are if you divide the armpit along a horizontal line if your arms were up in the air or if your arms are in down face dog. And the lower part is the part nearest your legs. Extend it towards the legs. You missed that A level. Don't worry. We'll catch you up.
Armpit geography. There's a special module that was added to geography for very special children. Okay, come down and do a kneeling position and put a block between the heels and buttocks if you want. And breathing through the nose. So this is Vajrasana, the Vajra. Jaw soft, eyes soft, throat soft, brain soft, tongue soft. Everything that can be soft is soft. Okay. We're going to fold over a third of our mat. And if you're in the room live, as it were, the lateral third, that is the third nearest the wall. And it needs to be a third, not a quarter. A lot of people, when you say a third, fold a quarter, which is too little. You might need a belt. I'll bring some round at home. I can't bring you one at home, obviously, but at home you could use a dressing gown belt, or you might have a yoga belt. But you might not need them, but I'll give them to you anyway. Pleasure. Great. And then possibly a block. I'll demonstrate with a block, and that'll be easier then, because it's becoming into a version of Janu Shirshasana, which has its roots in Hatha Yoga texts in the form of Mahabandha Maha Mudra. So if you know that you sit up very easily without a block and the spine is light and there's no effort in it, lovely, then that's fine. But I think most people will feel benefit from sitting on a block. So I'll demonstrate for the block. Sitting on the block, before you get too excited and run ahead of yourself, you should tilt the block backwards. So in this case, I'm tilting the side furthest away from the shrine. Having done that, that will then be the leg that we bring backwards, because now we've made space by tilting the block. And the foot will either come to the top of the opposite thigh or to the top of its own thigh in less common cases. And then we'll sit up tall. We'll let go of any tensions. Remember, we agree or disagree with the breath, and that includes specific parts of the body, like the knees, or the spinal muscles, or the shoulders, or the chest. So we just want to spend a bit of time agreeing. So we're scanning the body, noticing any areas that are gripping by noticing any areas where the breath becomes tight. So you're sort of scanning the body, and the feedback meter, the thing you read is the breath. So if you go to, say, your knee and then the breath's not expressive, then you know your knee is holding. And then you can reverse engineer that by letting go. Let go of the breath, and the knee will release. Some people, their hamstrings are long and they can tilt forward. They may also have the benefit of not just long hamstrings, but short legs. And so some people reach directly to the foot without closing the central channel, but most people benefit, at least initially, from the belt. Because it helps to discipline us to use a belt so that we're not reaching ahead of ourselves. So knee soft, jaw soft, brain soft. And then melting as we move. And of course the melting is body, brain, breath, universe. So the body will ease off if the breath becomes more relaxed. And the breath will become more relaxed if we're beginning to invest in this sort of Buddhist value that then gets adopted into other traditions like Shaivism, of emptiness. Emptiness means openness. So if we start equating empty with open, I think we'll get the right association.
If we're open, then we're able to see things as they are. It's very simple, isn't it? Just being open. If you meet someone who's open, then it's such a joy to meet. You don't feel like there's any difficulty talking to them. You don't have to get round any of their prejudgments. They're open. So surely that method is the correct method for approaching any living reality that works well from people you meet who are open. Then it will work well if you're open when you're meeting, say, the body. And the things that the body holds is what stops the body-mind being open. So purifying the nerves is how you become open. And people are open, they feel very like they're very warm as well. We like being near them. You want to purify the nerves, go through the muscles, and you'll find the nervous system is the sort of wizard from the Wizard of Oz behind the screen, as it were. We'll come back up slowly, although I know many of us find a longer stay in that very, very beneficial. We'll stretch out the legs. And if you are on a block, obviously you've got to tilt it back the other way for the other leg. And it certainly is beneficial for pretty much everyone to use a block. Same thing, once you've tilted the block back, you bring your foot back, either to the top of its own thigh, which is a bit more tricky, or the top of the opposite thigh. And then turn the body, spend a moment or two with a bit of elevation, created or assisted by the pressing into the fingers, elevation and turn. Breathe through your nose. And it's the pelvis that starts releasing via release of the groins, the adductors, the psoas, the hamstrings, back muscles, so on. And it may be that just, the leg is short enough, the arms are long enough to keep the spine open and reach the foot, but most of us, at least initially, are better off in terms of keeping the goddess channel open by using a belt, and in terms of not being caught up in that driven part of our habitual body. So we agree or disagree with our breath. Whether that be inside the bent leg knee, or whether that be in muscles of the back or neck, or wherever. So the way that we sort of viscerally respect the goddess is to not close off her channel. Her channel, many, but not all traditions, many traditions,
runs along the anterior spine. So keep the anterior spine open along its whole length. Right? So, come higher up on the belt or lift up again with the body. Find a way to open that goddess channel. And then when energy flows in that goddess channel, you'll be moving away from the particular, although the particular is what leads you back to the whole. We find both in Sankhya, Karika, and in Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, Patanjali's Yoga Sutra 218, I think. I can't remember the number in the Sankhya Karika. But we find this sort of the particle, the various feelings and sensations, when taken as a whole, do lead to freedom. It's very overt in both those texts. Okay, gorgeous though it is to stay, we'll come up nice and easy. Time does go rather quickly when you're having fun. I'm sure of that. We're going to come off the block. We're going to open up our mats, put a block for our heads and a belt nearby. We're going to lay down on our backs. A little microphone adjustment. Okay, have the belt nearby, block under your head. Plenty of space to the sides of you. So just stretch your arms out to the sides of you for a moment, which is nice anyway. And just appreciate how you are already saying no or yes. And of course, when we say yes, it's totally, it means, we're letting go of things that are saying no to the moment, like, holding on to problems. Sometimes we hold on to problems rather than saying yes to the moment. And of course, the idea in the back of our minds is we're holding on to problems so that we can solve them and so that we can let them go. But you can just go, you can cut out the middleman there and just let them go. You don't have to solve them before you let them go. If you've let them go, they've gone. There's nothing to solve. So that's an interesting thing that we do in our psyches too, sort of subconsciously, holding on to a problem about ourselves, about others. And some problems can't be let go of because they do need resolving, and some things can be, most things can be let go of. Now let's take the one leg, doesn't matter, you choose, and bring the strap around the front of the heel. Both arms stretched up, both arms straight, and the top leg straight, breathing through the nose. Some deep breaths, relaxed neck, relaxed lower back. The breath is such an important indicator because it's very easy to sort of believe something's happening, but we need to know that it's happening. And it's only the breath that tells the truth, the full truth. So when the breath is expressive, we know that the body movements we're taking are the ones that are leading to this sort of relief. So the breath relief is a sign of the relief of knowing. Flex up the other hip, so lift up the other foot. Let the lower back come close to the floor and enjoy that moment. And then skim the heel along the floor so it lifts, touches, travels. And see if you can get a bit of length out of the inner groin through further movements of the foot. Breathing through the nose, further movements of the foot. Hold the strap with one hand, only the same hand as the raised leg. Keep the other hand on top of the other thigh to encourage a meditative softening. Pull the top leg towards you and out. A meditative release between the front hips. Soft eyes, soft brain. A meditative release between the front hips. So that's something in it. Meditative just means absorbing. Absorbing means everything's part of it. Everything's absorbed into it, breath included. Okay, let the leg come up and bend the lower leg. Release the upper. Oh, for more time. Oh, for more time. Take a breath. In and out. And then another. And then another. And then another. And then another. And so on. And while taking deep breaths, so while relaxed, raise up the other leg. Bring the belt around the front of the heel similarly. Walk right up the belt till your arms are straight and the leg is straight. And then flex the hip of the other leg when you're ready. And enjoy that moment where the lower back is intimate with the floor. And then skim the heel like a stone skimming on water. Lifts, touches, travels. Inner groin opens. Nudge a bit more length if you can. So that length we want to feel in the inner groin. Breathe into it. Hold the strap with one hand. Only the other hand goes on top of the other thigh, which encourages it to release. Pull the leg towards you and then out to its own side. Again, that sort of meditative focus between the front hips that we breathe into. Neck soft. Breath, breath, breath. And then up comes the leg again. Bend the lower leg, release the upper leg, place both feet down, hands on the upper chest, buttocks tucked under. Take 5 deep breaths, deliberately deep breaths. Focus on the exhales. Yeah, let them be sigh-like. Let them be sigh-like. 5 deep breaths. Walk your feet close to your bum and just lift your bum up. Your hands can either remain on the chest or move to the ribs or move to the tummy or move to the hips or come to the floor or hold the mat or have the elbows turned in and forearms out. We're just doing a little bit of lifting and shaking and tilting and stretching the lower back muscles. So, bouncing, tilting, shaking, just finding the pelvic floor and integrating those muscles into the breath and into a subtle lift. And of course, with our head on the block, we've already got this Jalandhara Bandha. Lower yourself down, slow, 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 slow. Just take your hands to the buttocks and scoot the pelvis under. And then lengthen out the legs and turn the palms up. Make sure your head support is supporting you properly, sufficiently. Make sure your arms are not too close to the body. Good try. 10 out of 10 for effort. So I'm going to put blankets on people in the room. I can't do it for you at home. I wish I could help. Sadly, I can't. Hopefully, you're nice and warm anyway. Shavasana, corpse pose. Eyes closed, jaw soft, brain soft, tongue soft. Everything that can be soft is soft. Let go of the full weight of your arms, legs, and head.
and experience, even if it's just for a moment, the relationship between release and expansion. Allow a little movement into the body, explorative movement, wiggling the toes or fingers, wrists, ankles, and stretching out intuitively, naturally, and eventually bending the legs, soles of the feet on the floor, little scoot under of the buttocks, and a deep breath. Roll onto your side, facing away from the shrine at the Buddhist Centre, or whichever side is comfortable, and draw your knees up. Rolling again to lay on your other side. Taking some natural organic stretches. And eventually coming up from the side, using your arms to assist your ascent. If you want, you can put your hands in prayer position. And if you find the sentence agreeable, you can agree with it with an Om after I've said it. May the merit gained in our acting thus go to the alleviation of the suffering of all beings. Om. Thanks for coming to play. Good to see you. Have a lovely rest of the day. Thanks ever so much. Good to see you, Lucy. And be good. Bye, lovely.